We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. And this is part 2 to our review into the Adolf Hitler FBI Files, a person claiming that he was well and alive living in Argentina and the Andes Mountains, etc. It's part 2 because we completely forgot to give you the funny side of it. Okay? We've been through all the supposed letters to J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI and others, agents, etc., by different people. Okay? But we forgot to look at Revelations chapter 13, where John the Revelator has this vision, right? Angel of God, and he sees the Christ, etc. He sees all the things going on in the kingdom of heaven, right? In the heavenly realm. And Revelation chapter 13 reads it as, this is from the original ancient, very old Galilean Aramaic manuscripts, hidden and preserved by the original Apostolic Church of the East, founded by Thomas. It's given to the high priests, and they had these manuscripts from Emperor Constantine. Therefore, they were preserved, right? They were never translated into any other foreign language, not Greek. Well, they may have been rewritten in Koine Greek, but they weren't like, Chinese or Japanese or anything like that. Any other language like that, because it was exclusively for the high priests to read and preach to the people of that particular church, who were also native-born Aramaic, Syriac speakers, right? It was exclusive for them. Until Victor N. Alexander, a translator from Bet Narain or Mesopotamia, Syria, decided, after he got a copy of it from a high priest of that church in Bible format, decided, I'll translate them to English. So, the nearest English equivalent. So everybody out there, Christians, etc., can know the real truth about what the scriptures actually said, what Jesus the Christ and his disciples wrote and said and wrote, right? So, we're looking at Revelation chapter 13, and John the Revelator says he saw a dragon. Okay, this represents, that's symbolic for the devil, that old serpent, reptile, snake, the devil, stood on the sand of the sea. Okay, standing on a land in amongst, it's a land of people, right? Standing on a nation, right? And John saw that demon, there's a footnote there, which indicates 13.1 literal Aramaic idiom. 13.1 literal Aramaic idiom or expression, the way to put it across. Inhuman creature or anti-man. It hates man. It wants to see the destruction of man. Rising out of the sea, okay, amongst that peoples of that nation, that has 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its heads the names of blasphemies. So these 10 horns were kings, apparently, 7 cities maybe, and on its heads were the names of blasphemies. Nonsense, right? Like saying we are gods, we are descendants of the gods, etc., etc. It was total nonsense, blasphemy. And this was during the ministry of Jesus. And the demon that John saw, or that anti-man or hater of man that John saw, resembled a tiger, and his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of lions, and the dragon gave his power, or the devil gave his power, and his throne and great authority. Okay, he gave it to that demon. Now, this demon, by the looks of the scripture, is like he resembles a tiger. Okay, and his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of lions. So he roared a lot, he had a big mouth probably, said a lot of things. But yeah, it could be some sort of confederation, or it could be, as some say, to do with the histories of Alexander the Great, all the kingdoms that rose and then fell. Okay, they all try to be world dominant and all this sort of stuff. You have to do your own personal research on that to find the established fact. Okay? The evidence that proves itself evident, etc., etc. So you can fully understand what John was trying to reveal in regards to what he saw. And one of its heads, because it had 7 heads, as though cut and dying, and from under its own death it pulled through. So something happened to it. It was nearly destroyed, but it pulled through and it came back to life. And the whole world, or Earth, it's the people around them, not Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, or Australia. Yeah, it's talking about the world around them, like the Western world that was conquered, the Middle Eastern world that was conquered, etc., etc. That was known, right? Was enthralled in the wake of that demon. Literal Aramaic idiomatic construction was amazement after that inhumane creature. It sounds weird because that's the way it's translated from that original ancient long dead language, Galilean Aramaic, into English. Okay, that's how it's worded when it's translated directly from that particular language. Before it's corrected, right? Grammatically corrected. It becomes a palatable sentence. So everybody was jumping up and down in joy for that particular inhumane creature, or that which hated men, right? And they worshipped the dragon since it gave authority to that demon. Well, you could say that worshipping the devil, but it could mean like without them realising it, right? Because they're not of God, so they're obviously of the devil, and whatever was being pushed upon them, if it was wicked, if it was evil, unrighteous, well, they were going with it. They were praising the source, okay? The front man. Since it gave authority to that demon, that man-hater, that inhumane creature that hates man, and who could do battle with them? Who could fight this nation and beat them? They were just too good, too powerful, right? The military was just so effective. Yeah, they had those techniques, those methods they had, right? They create that shell, you know, all that sort of thing, and no one could penetrate it, all that sort of stuff. They were just such a great army, right? They invaded. No, what did they do? They marched for 2.5 years or something, and then invaded some other nation or something like that. Marched another couple of years or something, that sort of thing. Yeah, they're all very dedicated. Damn, they could fight, apparently. Yeah, so who could do battle with them and defeat them? And he was given a mouth. Okay, this leader was given a mouth to utter abominations, yeah, or blasphemies, or total nonsense, or wickedness. Okay, it's unrighteous speech, talk, right, and blasphemies. And he was given authority to, or talk nonsense, and he was given authority to do so for 42 months. 13.5. Yeah, literal Aramaic idiom nonsense. 13.7 literal Aramaic idiom motherlands. So he went across different countries and invaded them, right? And they came under their power, part of their state, right, or their states. And this particular being opened his mouth to blaspheme against Allah, or God. Allah in Aramaic, or God in English, to blaspheme against his name and his abode, his kingdom, right, and all the holy hosts that dwell in heaven. And he was given authority over all generations and nations and tongues and peoples, motherlands, right. And he was given authority to do battle with the saints and to defeat them. That's those of God, the chosen of God. So he put them to death. Okay, wherever they were in another land, it was like renounce your belief and embrace ours, or pay the penalty, pay the consequences. So a lot of them died refusing to do that, and a lot of them became snowflakes and went under their religion and dwelled with their communities, their cities, etc. Okay, and they worshipped him this particular leader, all of them who dwelled on earth, those whose names is not written in the book of life of the Lamb who was sacrificed from the foundations of the universe. So that's talking about Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah, or Jesus the Christ. So they worship this particular person who claimed to be descendant of the gods, a god, all powerful, etc., etc., more powerful than God himself. Just a whole lot of nonsense and blasphemies that were coming out of his mouth. And this was a heads up to John, through John, to all these people, the churches, etc. If a human being has ears, then listen. If a human being takes captives, by captivity he is taken. If a human being kills by the sword, he is destined to be killed by the sword. Because it's like karma, it's payback. You do that to one person or a lot of people, eventually it's going to happen to you. Or something very similar. But here it says, if you're a human being and you go take captives, make them slaves, etc., that somewhere along the way, maybe in the future, or not too distant future, or at some period, you will be taken as captives and slaves. And if you kill by the sword, you will be killed by the sword. That's your fate, your destiny, right? To be killed by that sword. Okay? It's your payback. Tooth for tooth, eye for eye, all that sort of stuff. It's payback, right? Karma, consequence. This is the justification for the hope and faithfulness of the saints. So, for example, the saints supposedly under the altar of God, crying out to God, when God, when will we be revenged? He says, wait, just a little bit longer. And he puts white clothes on and robes or something like that, etc., etc. That reassures them that justice will be done for them innocently slain because they believed in the cross and so forth. So we had this funny idea that this person that was cut down and dying was Adolf Hitler, his square moustache, all that sort of stuff. If he died and he's somewhere else, hiding away in Argentina or whatever, and he's supposedly creating weapons that will totally destroy the world, all this sort of stuff, as we saw we noted in this supposed Adolf Hitler FBI Files. We thought, hey, let's start a conspiracy, let's be funny and start one. Okay? Get people talking. We don't know if it'll work, but yeah, we're just being a bit funny there at this time, right? Okay. But seriously, it's not talking about Adolf Hitler or anyone like that. There probably does mention something about him in World War I or II and all this sort of stuff, bombs being dropped on people, and that's further on in this Galilean Aramaic New Testament translation, right? It's actually there. It speaks about it. Okay, it's not Adolf Hitler. Okay, we're just being funny, trying to start a conspiracy or something like that, see what will happen. It's talking about a certain king, Caesar, right, a Roman Caesar, that was given this power, this authority. He had a big mouth. He talked a lot of rubbish, a lot of nonsense, blasphemies, or saying, we're descendants of gods, or a god, or whatever. Bow down to me, worship me. His senators, or people in his courts, or whatever, his high-ups would say to people, right, you, do the sacrifice, you, bow down to the image of Caesar, right, the statue or whatever, or else we'll chop your head off, or punishment or whatever. And a lot of people say, nah, get stuffed. I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus the Christ. I don't bow down to idols, so they suffered for that, right? They were martyred for it. So this is what this person was doing, going across countries, invading them, and with the Waldeans and etc., and saying, right, relinquish your beliefs, right, adopt ours, okay, our empirical religion, and become under us, right? Come under us, or else we'll put you to the sword. Okay? So a lot of them said, nah, get stuffed, and that's what happened to them. And then their books, their religious books, their churches, whatever, temples, whatever, were destroyed. Okay. Yeah, that's what happened to the Waldeans and etc., etc. It's these Romans, like Constantine and others, who claimed to be gods, descended from gods, did throughout the Roman Empire, right? The Roman history. So yeah, it's not Hitler. It's this one particular Caesar. We thought it might be Tiberius, but then we read in histories that no, he stepped down or something happened to him. Later on he got poisoned, but he stepped down and he tried to come back, but this other Caesar was taking his place or something like that. And he was really powerful, really wicked, all this sort of stuff. Because Tiberius had somewhere along the way come across the gospel of Christ and he started to believe it. Okay? Maybe he was starting to push it, and the Roman Senate, etc., didn't like that because they had their pagan gods, etc., etc., so they poisoned him. Maybe he haven't checked. They haven't gone deep into that history of Tiberius, but we don't think it was Tiberius. He might have been an evil man or a wicked man for a while there. He suffered for it, but then realised, oh my gosh, the Christ saga is real, and repented, all that sort of stuff. And maybe the next Caesar was this horrible little man that did all these things, wicked things. Like he was, this is one that's being mentioned in this book of Revelations, because down here it's saying during this guy talked blasphemy or this sort of stuff during the ministry of Jesus. So who would be the Caesar during the ministry of Jesus? What, he's about 33 or something like that, so what's that, 30 AD or something? So who was the Caesar or Roman king at that time? Was it Augustus? Well, you have to go do your own research to find that out. Who actually was that nasty Roman emperor alive during the ministry of Jesus? This person is referred to as the Antichrist, or it's the first bishop of Rome, not Peter, the one that they lie that he became the first pope of the Roman Catholic Church or whatever like that. But this particular pope, that can't remember his name, he was first on the scene as a pope, and he was like wicked, etc., etc. Okay, that's when it possibly went from a good Roman state church religion, but behind the scenes they were mixing it with pagan Mithra, etc., etc. Like they'd have a church and everybody be praising the Christ or whatever, but underneath these Roman soldiers, etc., were giving honour to Mithra, possibly the Greek gods like Poseidon, etc., etc. You would find that with the timeline guy, Jovovich, or whatever his name was. He did a big documentary on that because somebody found markings in their field in London, or not London, some countryside area, farm, whatever, in the UK. It says, hey, there was these wicked looking symbols on here, strange looking symbols, and he figured out maybe it was a barn or something like that, or whatever, some place where they went and they worship Mithra and so forth. Okay, so if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, add your comments below in the comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can on those, ASAP. And then go share this video with all your family, friends, and others.